This program was made possible by a grant from the Kirkpatrick Foundation.
Creativity.
You have to believe that we will be here in 100 years, 500 years, 5,000 years. Now we've got to develop it and turn it into what we want the city to be.
We're proceeding with the KETA Shore Development Plan. KETA Shore is an opportunity. It's an opportunity because of the relocation of Interstate 40. I-40, as we know it, is going to change, and the city's going to change along with it. And I think the removal of the I-40 bridge and the relocated interstate gives us an opportunity to think for really a first time in a generation of what we would like to see south in the southern part of downtown.
As we're poised to grow as a city more than just about any city in the country right now, what type of growth are we going to see? And so it's really an opportunity for people to say, what kind of city is it that I dream of living in?
Creativity.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
Creativity is about solutions.
It's about answers.
Creativity is more than the arts.
More than a process.
Creativity is about action.
It's about action.
Creativity is about action.
Creativity is the state of mind.
Oklahoma is the state of creativity.
I never look at the way the world is. I always look at the way that it should or could be. But I do 10, 50, 500 years from now.
KETA Shore is a framework plan. It's a vision. KETA Shore is what kind of gives us our map for how to grow our current core.
Having a real strong urban core is essential for a city to see the cultural and economic growth that it needs to be a healthy place to live. Oklahoma City has jobs. What we need more of is an urban environment that can attract and retain our college grads. As we see that shift happening, we'll see a real boom to the economy because you'll see not just people that take jobs, but the people that create jobs that come here, your young creatives. I think since the vision of maps was cast, people begin to grab hold of what could be in downtown Oklahoma City. It caused some people to look forward for the long term and think that Oklahoma City could have a vibrant, sustainable, diverse, urban core.
The area that is KETA Shore was cut off from downtown, which is how it was allowed to sort of devolve to the point where it became a blight on the city.
We make the argument that in any city between downtown and the river, that land should be some of the most expensive, most sought-after land in the entire metro area, and we want to reverse that trend right now.
If you look at the development of other cities, they have all oriented towards those features. A downtown skyline view anywhere else in the world is extremely valuable. And when the plans for the new I-40 alignment were announced, We saw that as an opportunity to reconnect this area to downtown.
The new I-40, and certainly it's something that's controversial, but it's something that we've bought off on. And so we have an obligation, I think, to our children that if this is the route we're taking, we need to do it as well as we can.
We have this enormous block of land, which the city is coming to us and saying, okay, what do you think we should do with this? And by the way, it's not one single thing we do with this. It's a multitude of things we can't even, at that time, couldn't even begin to comprehend. And let's face it, what creativity is all about is trying to balance those two things, taking it forward to produce something, or a multitude of things, that is viewed by others as being demonstratively beneficial to all walks of life here in Oklahoma City.
We acquired all but about 7 of those, and I think those are all related to railroad in some form.
I don't think it's anybody's single vision. We formed a steering committee comprised of 35 different individuals. We wanted to get as broad a cross-section of opinions as we possibly could in the development of the plan.
It really has been very inclusive of ideas, ideas that are outside of the box, ideas that might stimulate some other kind of thinking. How do we, how does the cultural community, the civic community, how does the private business community, how do we all interact with each other to support what each of those groups need and hope to see come out of this whole project?
The part that I think is somewhat daunting is the notion that it's going to be here for a long, long time, outlive most of us. So the notion of what's going to be really important 20 years from now, what do we know is still going to attract people?
There are 3 public aspects to Court Ashore that I think are vital. The first and the most important is the boulevard that will replace the I-40 corridor.
The boulevard is going to be our signature main street. We haven't had that before. We're creating this new boulevard. It'll be very conducive to pedestrians.
We have spent generations building streets and roads and highways to see how fast we could get people from point A to point B. But my vision for the boulevard is to create a place, to not specifically see how fast we can move people down a street, but rather to bring them to a place where they can enjoy, and so the street really revolves around people and not cars.
There'll be a high design in terms of the sidewalk and the street furniture that's used there. Then you will enter a new retail district, kind of like an exterior mall. It's a lifestyle center kind of feel to it. So you'll have a lot of new shopping opportunities there that don't exist currently, a bit like a Country Club Plaza in Kansas City, for example. But it's all about creating a place for people to watch other people. That's why these places are successful.
We want the boulevard to be the signature street of Oklahoma City, so that when you have visitors come to town, that you take them to the boulevard first. We also want it to be urban. We want people to feel like it's part of the market they've never really had.
There's 1,000 elements that are needed to make a real quality urban environment. Most importantly, I believe, are quality public spaces. And so let's have great buildings. But more importantly, let's focus on the space, the arena between the buildings, where you have a walkable environment that's well connected. You have a great series of sidewalks to public spaces and quality green spaces within this urban district.
We really view that as our job here is to create some great public spaces that you would be almost a fool to not build next to. One of the things that really rang through the entire process was a need for a central park.
The park is going to be crucial to front the boulevard. It also can serve as a large central gathering space that we really don't have in Oklahoma City, and it can fundamentally serve as that joining between the core of downtown and the shore of the river.
People want a grand gathering space for the entire community. They want a place, as one of our previous consultants had said, that would be your community place for grand celebrations. You know, what happens when the Thunder win their first championship? Where are we going to celebrate that? We don't want to create some sort of copycat. We don't want to do some sort of cookie cutter park. And to their credit, the consultant team that we've hired for the park, I feel like they've come up with something that is both urban, but also is truly Oklahoman.
We'd already begun thinking about what does it mean? What is a world-class park? What is a world-class park for Oklahoma City? You know, how can it be unique to this city? We looked at sort of the geomorphological structure of Oklahoma. We looked at the landscape of Oklahoma, the plants, the trees. What are all those components that we can help bring together to make it of Oklahoma? And then what are the ingredients that make parks successful? Water, food, shade. You know, how can we bring all those together in a physical expression that's unique to this site? And so we never come forward with just one idea. We come forward with sort of different approaches. Like one of them is a KETA scheme, and the KETA is the geologic formation that is typical to Oklahoma. It's the sort of landforms that are part of the landscape here. And one is an island scheme, so it's an idea of islands of program, islands of use within the overall park, distributed throughout the park. And then one is a lake scheme that has more water to it, more of a system of different kinds of use of water on the sites. Creative process is not just suddenly I have a creative idea and I'm going to land it here. It's a build-up. It's a build-up from the ground up. It's facts. It's, you know, get your facts, do your research, understand the place, and then it grows. It grows out of that. So your creative ideas, your design ideas come out of that. They're rooted. They're based in something. To make a great place, you have to do the analysis. It has to be based in something. And then you have to make place. You have to make shape, you have to make form, you have to make place out of that. But it's the combination of those two things that makes great design.
We are looking to the private sector to take advantage of this public investment and create a new urban community that is unlike anything that I've said that we've imagined before. It's a different architecture, it's a different population. You know, we've lost generations of young people who've moved out of state because they're looking for this environment. The park and the public infrastructure component, I mean, that's what we do as a catalyst for the private sector.
People will want to live adjacent to it. Corporations will want to have their headquarters adjacent to it. Hotels will want to be near it. A convention center, as a possibility, can be a good thing next to a park if done right, if there's a mix of uses associated with the convention center as well. So the mix of uses that will want to be adjacent to the park will be a catalyst for revitalization and development of downtown. But more than that, or just as importantly, you want a place where everybody wants to come. Whether it's the family who wants to have their family reunion or the kid's birthday in the park, or whether it's people who have out-of-town guests and they want to bring them to the park, or whether it's visitors to the city who know that going to this park is one of the things they must do to understand and feel Oklahoma City.
So when we build that park, we realize that a park is only as good as the residences that are within walking distance of it. So we want to make sure that West Park neighborhood has tons of units that are using that as their green space, and they're no longer using just their own privatized backyard, but that they are coming down because they want to share public space with their neighbors.
Core to Shore offers an opportunity for us to put thousands of residential units just south of downtown Oklahoma City. It offers an opportunity for us to create an urban environment that we haven't seen before, and that you would find in Portland or in San Francisco or in Austin. But in the past, you haven't seen this in Oklahoma City. If we can create that kind of community, you'll see the kind of job creation and job growth in downtown Oklahoma City over the next generation that you won't see if we don't.
If you can imagine being on the 5th story of an apartment or a condo that's overlooking the park, and you can look up towards the downtown skyline, and you get to see the lights of the city at night, and there's people playing and doing activities in the park all the time, it just adds so much more. I mean, who's going to turn on the TV when you've got that?
Quarter Shore Master Plan is really about trying to capitalize on the I-40 highway. No matter where you put the highway, it's always going to present some sort of challenge of how you get past it. People don't like going under things, and that would help explain a lot as to why we haven't developed south of our existing I-40. But to go over things costs more money. And so trying to make the new I-40 as functional as possible and to set it up in a way that we have a full set of desirable options as to how to get over it. The bridge component of the Quarter Shore Master Plan is so important. Everyone on the steering committee for Quarter Shore realized if we're going to have a core to shore connection, that bridge needs to be done right.
That's going to be part of creating this new identity for Oklahoma City. As St. Louis has its arch and other cities have their iconic features, this will be part of it. It won't be the only iconic feature, but it's going to be a significant part of creating that changed awareness of who we are as a city, both for people who live and work and drive through on I-40 every day, and then for those people who are passing through.
Ultimately, it's never about one person. Create a, it just wouldn't be doable with the relocated OG&E lines. It could be that it's the media that it's made more convenient for the media if it's one person, and we'd love to somehow idolize the one person, the genius, and so forth. But my life experiences have made it very clear that it's not about that. The Oklahoma City Skydance Bridge competition team was something that I'd consciously put together with the hopes that we would have these healthy layers of tension. And they're all great people for whom I have tremendous respect. And so you've got Stan Carroll, who's this fantastic award-winning architect and artist in our community. You have David Wanzer and Brett Johnson. You've got Jeremy Gardner, my business partner, Laurent Massenat, who's this fantastic structural engineer who moved here from France, of all places. And then Chris Ramsayer, who gets just rave reviews from everyone. The successful collaborative process relies largely on tension. You need to have a group of people who share value systems, right? But at the same time, engage those value systems from differing viewpoints or places of strength. We're all different, so we all can bring a different perspective to a problem, right? And when you get a collaborative group together, it's so critical that the individuals in that group are comfortable sharing. Take advantage of the somewhat malleable qualities of the panels. Further shape at varying scales.
Allow them to respond to those cable angles that start shifting left and right. The real genius of that system is how you can replace a panel that's out in the middle.
The whole idea was to develop the icon image of the city, and so that was a pretty heavy charge to begin with, and so we took it very humbly and really rolled up our sleeves and went hard at trying to figure out what was appropriate.
What if they had done the St. Louis Arch with Polygal? No way. There's just no way.
We started out in a large number of directions. In fact, that in my experience is the best and most creative way. You start, it's almost like a shotgun approach where you just throw out 1,000 ideas in 1,000 different directions with no restraint, and then you take those 50 ideas and then you start culling through them and start throwing out the ones that might seem really appropriate or the ones that aren't quite as appropriate.
Possibly some of the misconception, at least it was mine as well. When you think of creative people, is that they look at something and, oh, boom, here it is. That's one idea, and it happened to be a genius idea, and everybody's celebrating. In reality, there's a lot of work involved.
It first developed with a significant amount of ideas and what things are kind of worthy of that. And one of the main things that stuck out to us was the scissor tail flycatcher. As we started to develop that process and started to develop the imagery of the scissor tail, we started creating form and developing the ideas of how this might work. Hans was very passionate about having this bridge be very vertical because of the relationship to the Oklahoma horizon, and very horizontal. I mean, I can't imagine a more horizontal place on the earth than Oklahoma City. Hans really felt strong about having that, you know, whatever we do, having it pierce the sky.
And that's what the bird, the scissor-tailed flycatcher, really does for us. And it does so in this kind of exalting way. I mean, you look at that bird and the way it maneuvers, and it looks so alert, and also in the way it flies, its dance, you know, this V-shaped dance, the sky dance that it does during the mating season in spring, is a very spatial dance.
You recognize two things. There's initially the horizontal plane that you're going to continue to walk on as you approach the bridge from the north or the south. And then hovering above this slightly arching bridge is a steel sculpture with two wings that stick up vertically. And there's a third element that comes off and is actually a tail that hovers slightly above the bridge deck on the south element that extends over to one of the abutments on the south side.
We wanted the light structure, obviously. The famous constraint in budget, you know, pushes us to be efficient. So efficiency often translates into lightweight. As we are progressing toward that idea, actually, we are encouraged by the fact that this resembles so much the skeleton of a bird, you know, that we feel that's maybe when we stop thinking twice about it. This fits. This is natural.
It's about a very simple bone structure. In this case, steel, just tube steel. You know, that we use in oil fields all over our state. You know, it's readily available. It doesn't cost much. You know, it's the cheapest material you can work with, and that's partly because it's so common and because it's so lightweight and efficient, just like the bone structure of a bird.
I might use an Italian metaphor here. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a while. The boulevard will be completed in 2014, so that, you know, the freeway will be completed in 2012. You know, according to current Department of Transportation estimates. The freeway will not be the wow factor. The pedestrian bridge will be the thing that people talk about when they drive on the new freeway. It could take 50 years. Hopefully it'll develop sooner than that, but it's a large area. I think the really prominent areas within the next 20 years. So that, you know, and then the rest will fill in after that. Part of my sort of mantra for how we do what we do is I want people to always say, I would never have expected to see that in Oklahoma City. And I want them to say that for a decade or so, and then to say, wow, Oklahoma City has done it again. We need to lead the way. We have a phenomenal momentum going, and we need to continue that.
You know, what we saw throughout the process was that, you know, people speaking up and challenging ideas, challenging notions, some with the intention of saying, I think this is a bad idea, where we're going with this little detail here. The Court Shore process and the members of the steering committee, it's the same way.
And so it's been a very exciting project, and particularly for those of us that have a chance to sit back and see people engage, that what has happened is just that ideas get exchanged, solutions seem to arise, consensus is built, which has made it very pleasant in the sense that the debates, discussions occur, and ultimately there seems to be a broad consensus of how things should move forward.
As we're poised to grow as a city more than just about any city in the country right now, what type of growth are we going to see? And I think if we can focus that growth in a dense, urban, mixed-use, vibrant fabric, you'll see people come to Oklahoma City by the droves.
Lay a foundation for a whole bunch of people to get involved in the creative process. Don't leave it to, one or just a couple of people with their ideas. Allow everybody to have their input.
And so it's not just a small subcommittee that has all the answers and has divine insight. It's really an opportunity for people to say, what kind of city is it that I dream of living in?
This program was made possible by a grant from the Kirkpatrick Foundation.
For a DVD copy of this program, please call 800-879-6382 or send a check or money order for $22.95 to the OETA Foundation, Post Office Box 14190, Oklahoma City 73113.
On the next History Detectives, is this ocean trash or historic treasure?
There is this black rocky thing. Maybe it's a cannon.
Did this old farmhouse have a revolving door?
The property seemed to change hands a lot of times, and it have Russian names.
And did a poet paint this portrait?
It's almost too realistic.
No secret is safe. Next time on History Detectives.
Monday night at 8 on OETA.
You can make something that looks like a piano fairly easily, but to get it to sound like an instrument, it's very difficult.
I like the piano to sort of play back a little bit.
There's something really magical about this.
Cabinet makers are a dying breed.
See all the little scrapes and everything? That's what makes it, like, you feel like you're actually accomplishing something, you know?
Monday night at 9 on OETA.
This fall, filmmaker Ken Burns tells the story of the national parks, America's best idea. And we want to share your stories of the national parks. Tell us about the first time you saw the Grand Canyon, or that family vacation in Yellowstone, or camping out in Acadia. Log on to the web address on your screen, and you can share your pictures and videos too. So gather around our campfire and share your story of the national parks. The adventure is only a click away.
In today's economy, retirement accounts have been decimated, stocks have plummeted, and healthcare concerns loom large. But there is some hope. Please join me, Paula Zahn, as we navigate these tough financial times together. Learn more about your money, health, and Medicare as we explore just what it means to retire today.
You have to embrace risk.
In Retirement Revolution, the new reality.
Tuesday night at 8 on OETA. Visit Gallery and discover Oklahoma's award-winning arts and culture series, Thursday night at 8 on OETA, the Oklahoma Network.